India's cyberspace is busier than ever, carrying crores of transactions and interactions every day. Over 86% of households are now connected to the internet, reflecting the remarkable progress under the Digital India initiative. The expanding digital landscape has enabled citizens to access digital services at their fingertips. At the same time, it has also widened the attack surface for cyber frauds, making cybersecurity a national priority. Now, the surge in cybersecurity incidents from 10.29 lakh in 2022 to 22.68 lakh in 2024 reflects the growing scale and complexity of digital threats in India. Simultaneously, the financial toll is becoming more pronounced, with cyber frauds amounting to rupees 36.45 lakh reported on the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, or the NCRP, as of 28th February 2025. Now, on this edition of Straight Talk, we will take a look at why cybersecurity is important, the type of key cyber frauds, emerging cyber threats, including detection and reporting mechanisms. We will also dwell on sectors most vulnerable to cyber threats, cybersecurity initiatives, and forward plan. I'm Aaron Lingdo. Before we dive into the technicalities of the discussion this evening, let's first meet my guests. Joining me on the broadcast is Yalamlang Jirwa, who is a Sub-Inspector of Police, Cybercrime Wing, Meghalaya, Shillong. I'm also joined by Jaden D. Same, who's a website developer at DataYug Society, again based out of Shillong. And last but not the least, I also welcome Pema Choki Sherlinsi Dokrud, who is a social media manager at Digital Fuel. I welcome all three of you to the broadcast at the moment. I will start with you, Yalamlang. First of all, you just heard in my opening about the numbers, and of course, there is a surge and we see there is a challenge. What are some of you talk to us a little bit about the growing scale and the complexity of digital threats when we talk about India, and how is it affecting people here in the region in particular?
Thank you very much, Baran. So when you speak about the complexity of the digital threats in India as a country, and of course in our region, what I would like to emphasize on is that the cybercrime is no longer a trend which is simply within a closed door.
Correct.
Okay, now we're looking at various forms of fraud, and only to cite a few, for example, identity theft, phishing, online fraud payments, online gaming apps, online shopping fake apps, and many others, so to say. The facade is completely new, and every single time that we encounter such complaints, we see that there's always a different modus operandi. So in order to, the bottom line here is the criminals keep updating themselves so that they know how they can actually get their job done. And also keeping in mind how to trick people and how to fool people out of it. Now, looking at the digital threats, or rather, how it has emerged, when you look at a region here in our own state, we could say that the vulnerability factor affects mostly those who are newly introduced to online social media and the internet world.
Right.
Also, we may count in the senior citizens who are absolutely new to all this. People perhaps, back in their days, who were only comfortable with non-digital platforms, a typewriter or maybe a PCO phone or maybe a landline phone at home. Now all of a sudden they get introduced to the digital world, digital media, so they become more vulnerable. And many a times we have seen that due to lack of awareness, the general public become more and more vulnerable, and they fall prey to all these attacks.
All right, now before we move on with the discussion, I would like to show you a very short clip, rather an interaction that I had with the founder and president of DataYug Society. She spoke about the vision and mission of the society, and also about the goals and what they want to achieve. Let's take a look at this conversation and then we will move on. Ms. Mahato, first of all, welcome to the broadcast. I wanted to ask you, first of all, what's the vision and mission of this organization called DataYug?
DataYug Society has formed with a very strong vision and strong belief that social media is no more a luxury, it's become a necessity. And in this necessity, we are not only looking after what is called technology, what is called the positive aspects of social media, but there is a dark side of social media, dark side of technology which very few people are speaking about. In this digital era where we all are speaking about digital India, digital nation, how many people are talking about the darkest side of technology? Our vision is to bridge the gap between the technology people who are creating the good things and the professional people who know how to save them from this dark sides of the social media and dark side of technology. Our mission is started from Meghalaya and it will go far beyond, as we are planning to open our DataYug branches in different parts of the state. Starting with Meghalaya, we are looking for a digitally safe India. Many things where children, they are not able to share with their family, with their friends, with their teachers, they are coming forward to DataYug Society and they are sharing that how social media is exploiting them, how it's spoiling their future. So we at a DataYug Society, we are not only spreading awareness, we are also standing as a counselor who are really helping them how to not only how to register this, but how to overcome the mental stress they have gone through that social media explosion and all. Meghalaya is a state where we have very less companies. I may say it's an agricultural land. I can say our people are really looking for jobs. Our people are really looking for part-time income, and social media, they are looking different kinds of job offers, this and that. And what they are doing, they are filling up those forms, they are giving their details, and they are become a victim of cybercrime. Recently, 4 of our youth has been arrested in Bangalore. They have been lured as a job opportunity, as a working in a call center, but they were unaware they were working in a cybercrime hub. They don't know that. They have been arrested. They even don't have that idea. So one is job scam where people are getting victim. One is digital arrest, which is very common, and one more is investment scam. Our goal is to make Meghalaya first cybercrime free, digitally aware, digitally literate. So Meghalaya should stand as an example in the other state that we are a digitally safe state where digital literacy will be high and cybercrime rate will be low.
Well, Jiren, you just heard from the president there. Now I want to hear it from you. How can DataYug now equip people with the knowledge and skills needed to navigate this digital world skillfully and in an ethical manner?
Firstly, thank you, Aaron, for inviting all of us here into this panel discussion. And I would like to bring light to DataYug in the sense like DataYug is an NGO which has which was started in 2022. So over the past 2 years that has happened, we have trained 10,000 students and bankers from various banks as well as certain government organizations regarding cybercrimes and digital literacy. So along with the Meghalaya Cyber Wing and the Youth Minister, this is all possible because of them. And because of these organizations, we were able to teach a lot of people, and we're continuing to grow through such scales. So in the next few years, we will continue to grow at a higher rate. And with such organizations, many states and many districts in Shillong do require such literacy, because as Sir said, we moved from a typewriter to a phone very quickly, and therefore we need such literacy and digital education on how we can prevent and be more aware of such scams or frauds or phishing techniques that are occurring day by day.
All right, Prema, I'll come to you because, while social media platforms help users keep in touch with their friends and relatives and even start a business or connect with customers, we're also vulnerable to a lot of cyber threats. Why social media in particular is vulnerable to more cyber crime, if you will?
Social media is vulnerable mostly because millions of people use social media. And they share personal information, and they share information based on the things and all that's going on, on the world and all. And so cyber criminals usually attack social media. They go into people who has like weak passwords and who overshare things like your date of birth openly you share on Facebook and all, date of birth, your location, your daily location, and also your phone number.
Right.
So based on that, these cyber criminals, they go through those accounts who have weak passwords. Yes, weak passwords. So based on that, like people can get through. So we should be aware to have like strong passwords, make strong passwords, and yes.
All right. So we will come back to you in a moment. I want to go back to Ba Ya Lam Lang because if we look at the different sectors that are available in India, and of course they would be vulnerable, but since we're running short of time, if you could just give us a sense of how many sectors in particular which would be way more vulnerable to cyber threats, especially in our country.
Right, Baron. So when you're looking at these various sectors, to name a few, which would include the banking sector, also the payment sector, the various health institutions, education institutions, and also any other platform or any other, sector or an organization where you have actually given your data. So everywhere where your data is, that sector becomes completely vulnerable.
Okay. Well, I'll go back to Jaden because it's interesting that you are a web developer and there are emerging cyber threats, that's for sure. What are some of those emerging cyber threats that we should all be concerned about?
The emerging cyber threats that are currently happening, there are like too many to name off. So some of them I would give like the common phishing techniques. Then you're getting email by a certain company like for a certain amount of let's say lakhs that you've been hired here. Then in a hurry you join these companies giving your data, like your date of birth, passwords, stuff like that. As soon as you join these companies, you're getting trained for like a particular job, but this job doesn't benefit society and all. In fact, it does the complete opposite. It takes from society. So as soon as you join these jobs, like you're basically committing cybercrimes or fraud. Then once you try to escape, or like once you like, let's say you understand like these companies are doing such jobs and you try to come out, they end up blackmailing you and saying like you've been working for us for a particular amount of time, saying you've committed these many frauds, so we'll go to the police and tell this. But during those times, the best thing is to actually go to the police and like describe the entire situation that is happening to you, and so you can prevent such things. Then the next I would say is like, as Ma'am Pema said, get better passwords. For every application you log on to, use a different password. Then go for two-factor authentication. That prevents any hackers from actually getting into your account easily, because from there, the two-factor authentication, you get a specific code or like to your number or mail. So from there you understand like if someone tries to hack into your account, they need that particular code to actually get more into your account, which cannot happen because that is stored with you only. Next I would say, as Sir said, Sir Yalam said, like these banks and hospitals are the ones who are like very vulnerable. So I would say the banks and hospitals have to like update the systems on a daily basis to prevent such things from happening. And we must also be careful into sharing like such information if these hospitals or banks have they don't have a secure login system, or like they don't have that HTTPS thing. That makes the entire website very vulnerable to getting attacked or like getting your data breached.
Correct. So Pema, let me come back to you because I want you to share with our viewers a little bit about some of the best practices that can be taken when we talk about our social media security and our privacy, especially online, and keeping our online accounts safe and secure. Some of the best practices.
So some of the best practices, like he said, like a two-factor authentication. It's you have to keep a password and verification. So better use that, and you will get a code in your SMS or phone or email, so you'll be a bit the hackers will not get through your accounts. So yes, and also you can. It's better to keep your private account private rather than public account. So if you want to keep a public account, you have to be aware of not
sharing personal
personal information or your daily location. Like.
Bhai Lamlang, coming back to you, we're integrating internet in almost every sphere in our lives, in whatever we do. You mentioned education, banking, a lot of other things that we do. Now, when we look at, and that demands a very safe digital space and ambience for all of us to operate. Talk to us a little bit about the cyber security environment and here in India, and what are some of those cyber laws that are in place to help protect all of us from frauds and scams, you name it?
Right. So, Barons, we live in a society, and society is always governed by laws. Now, when it comes to our protection against all these cyber threats, cyber crime cases, we have laws in place. Now, for example, the Information Technology Act of 2000, and this was amended in the year 2008. Then we also have the Indian Penal Code, the IPC, which later on has become the Bharatiya Nyay Sahitya of 2023.
The BNS.
The BNS, yes. So these are the laws that can actually protect the citizens if at all, if any case, the citizens happen to fall prey or happen to be victim or happen to come and report such crimes. So we have these laws that are in place.
Okay. Bajidin, once again, we heard from your president and how Data Society is working. Give us some tips, the do's and don'ts for especially the public, because let's not look at India because it's vast. Let's narrow it down to Meghalaya, and even probably let's just look at Shillong. What are some of the do's and don'ts for the public to ensure that their accounts, be it your Facebook, be it the banking accounts online, etc., are safe and secure?
The first thing I would say is whenever you go out into your restaurants or cafes, don't use the free Wi-Fi that is being given. I would say ask the cafe or the restaurant, is this the Wi-Fi you're providing? If not, don't use it.
Right.
Secondly, I would say whenever you go into these let's say these hubs or these cyber cafes, whenever you log into your account through your Gmail or something, make sure to always log out, because there are certain times we're in a rush, we come out of that cyber cafe and then our emails are still logged in. So people get that information and use it against us. The next would be don't pick up any pen drive that is that you see in the streets or something, because those pen drives are encrypted with a certain script. And as soon as you keep it inside your laptop or desktop, anything, it runs a particular script and your entire operating system or your files are locked or it's deleted. So in order to get those files once again, you have to pay a certain amount, either through a transaction or through Bitcoin, which is called ransomware. The do's I would say are always use two-factor authentication for all of your apps. Never use the same password for all of your apps. Please just continue to change it accordingly. And then remember to log out of your account from any cyber cafe you get into. And the last would be keep updating yourself on the cyber threats and frauds that are happening, and don't be quick to act and go through your stuff, learn about it first and then look into it, should I actually indulge in this thing or not.
Right, fair enough. Pema, correct me if I'm wrong, social media is entirely driven by your softwares. How important are software updates to protect us from cyber attacks?
Software updates are very important because they fix security problems in devices and apps. So it's better whenever company sees that a device
device is vulnerable.
Yeah, the device is vulnerable, so company sends a message to the device you have to do a software update. So it's better we do the software update.
Right.
A famous example I would give is it's a ransomware virus that happened in 2017. It is called the WannaCry virus. So because of this, the hospitals actually, it infected a lot of the hospitals. None of them updated the system, so most of the files got locked and they had to pay a certain amount through Bitcoin. So it is very important for us to update our systems, else such vulnerabilities will get attacked by people and they'll take advantage of us, especially like the banks and the hospitals or the institutions, educational institutions.
Right, so fair enough. Bayalam, what are some of the initiatives that the government has taken so far to strengthen, people, citizens' participation in the fight against cybercrime?
Right. So, Byron, so from the government, they have these platforms which has really brought together the public and the various stakeholders. We have the I4C, which is the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. Now, through this, there are other sub-platforms with which, there are a lot of the awareness that is being provided to the public. You can also learn so much about these threats, about these vulnerabilities, about the various cybercrimes on these platforms. Then, we also have the capacity building for the law enforcement agencies and also for the judicial officers, so that we will always be updated. Then the public awareness programs, which has been happening on and off and for so long. It is only with these awareness programs that we are able to reach out to the public and to be able to convey our message to them. Like I was discussing earlier with panel members and the others in the room, I was telling them that cybercrime is it's such a crime which can be prevented when you are aware. When you know about the vulnerabilities, when you know where it could be a threat to you, it can always be prevented.
Jayden, I want to hear it from you, and based on obviously your understanding, how are we as a state equipped to handle and fight cyber crime incidents just here in the state? How equipped are we?
As for now, we are pretty much equipped, but I would say like cyber threats and they keep evolving. So I would recommend every one of us to keep learning about new threats or frauds, scams that are happening. So in that way, we as a state become more prepared and ready. And the next, I would say, like, we need to keep updating and reading more about not even our state, but like more about whatever is happening in the world, like the types of data breaches that are happening, because such data breaches are very they're harmful for all of us. And I would like to say, like, as Sir mentioned, Sir Yalam, he said, like, these laws are they're meant for us, the public. So in case such things do happen to us, we can always approach the police or like the cyber wings in order for them to help us.
All right, so a very interesting question, Pema, because when we look at social media, all our data is being scrutinized and used, it's online, hence, and we're being followed across the web, and hence we see ads, targeted ads, especially, when you're browsing, whether it's your Facebook or Instagram, etc. Apart from that, so what I feel is that the more you are on social media, the more exposed you are, because, like I said, your data is being analyzed. Would you agree with me?
Not completely. So yes, the more we use social media, the more data is collected. So these platforms, the content that we see on social media, they track they track our behavior, and they show that specific targeted ads. Suppose books.
Let's say you go into Amazon, you search specific ads. Yes, very true.
Yes, suppose we go through that, like Amazon ads and all, so we get specific targeted ads in our accounts. So yes.
Would you like to add on to what you just said?
So I would say, like, the algorithm has become really good in such a way, like, whichever site you visit, a specific ad is directly given to you in the next application you browse. And it's pretty funny because before the internet was very vast, and now it's basically keeping us under one bubble, which is pretty funny.
True. Bayalam Lang, just a few days ago I received an email from ICICI, and it states that digital arrest is a scam, is there something called digital arrest in law?
So, lawfully speaking, there is no such term.
Okay.
Now, this is only a short form of a fraudulent act. What actually happens in digital arrest is either you will receive a communication via email or maybe over a telephonic phone call, and which will be again, it will take place with a video call.
Okay.
So what happens is you will be given a message, or you will be told rather, that you are involved in a crime. And the fraudsters who appear on screen when they are with you on the video call, they will be dressed as one of the law enforcement agencies. It could be a state police organization, or it could be a central investigation agency. Now the thing is, the mindset of the common public, the very fact that I remember as a kid, when I would see police from a distance, I would simply turn my back and run away. So that mindset still continues. Now think about seeing a policeman or a team of police officials on online media, social media. The fear factor that comes in, and you become absolutely senseless. Your response time becomes very, very less, that you don't just know what and how to react anymore. So in other words, you fall prey to this fraudulent act.
Right.
And then you are somewhat lured to actually give away all your money so that you will not be arrested. Now just to remind you, just to tell you here, Baron, and also to all our viewers and audience, that the police will never ever come on an online social media platform to give you the message that you're being arrested. They might as well serve you a notice, or maybe they'll barge into your doorstep, into your houses. They don't have the time to actually come out on a video call with you. And the moment you get any kind of communication whereby it states that you have been digitally arrested, please report this matter immediately. Ignore this. This is a 100% fraudulent act.
Okay. So ICICI is right then in that case.
Yes.
I would also like to add into Sir Yalam's point was, like, with the advancement of AI, we share our faces and like our voice very frequently. So such scammers will use our voices and our faces to like commit such frauds. So like, let's say our parents get a call from the police saying we've been arrested. They can basically show up a face which has been mocked via yes, right? Exactly. So that causes huge anxiety attacks, or like our parents get into like huge panic attacks basically, and they're not sure what to actually do. And as Sir said, during those cases we should directly inform the police of such cases so that we don't fall prey to such victims.
Right, fair enough, because my next question is on AI. Again, that's directed to you, because according to Checkpoint Software's 2026 cybersecurity report, India faces over 3,100 weekly cyber attacks as AI drives new security shift. So that means the coming of artificial intelligence is complicating the matter. Even it's taken it to a different level altogether. We've been talking prevention right from the beginning. How do we prevent it now? How do we prevent these AI-driven attacks?
Firstly, I would say never share any of your personal information on any of these open AI, like these AI agents, be it ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, any of these, because you never know what they're going to do in the servers. The company itself can take whatever information they have, train their algorithms or like their bots on such data that has been given by you, or they can sell this data to certain people in the dark web or something or the other. You never know. The next point I would add is keep your searches on such platforms minimal, or like to a degree where like you're just learning about stuff. Never sending like, you never convert GPT into your personal therapist. Even Sam Altman, the CEO, has said you should never share such personal information with the AI, because it might turn on you later on. Next is like your voice and face are very vulnerable to such attacks as well. And then there's a new system, there's a new bot that came out very recently. It's called Cloud Bot. So this runs inside your system, and you give it full access to your system. So many companies have done this, and they've lost a lot of growth and profit using this. So I would say you should be careful in integrating such things into your system.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Pema, you know what, paying for things online is worrying a lot of users, but of course we can't avoid that. We all shop online
Yes.
and do a lot of things knowingly and unknowingly as well. So is it advisable, in your opinion, for us to give our card details? When I say our card, everything is there, and shop online. What would you suggest?
Online payments are generally safe if done correctly using proper websites that has HTTPS, like you said, and avoid public Wi-Fi while using transactions and all. Yes.
So
And I also add on, like, we should only go for transactions from trusted websites,
Yes.
like Amazon or like Flipkart, the trusted ones.
Yes.
Unless we go into some unknown apps and we go for a transaction, that is where like your entire data goes, or like your entire money just gets lost in that thing.
And just a
Yes,
point to
also-
add here, in case if you have doubts, please opt for cash on delivery.
but we'll have to pay more, but still we'll offer cash on delivery. My
It's
safety
the
is
safe-
rather
it's the
pay
safer
more.
option.
Spend
Correct.
more
Spend more,
Spend
and then
more
you'll
for the
be
safer
safe
than to
from-
lose than to
Correct.
lose more.
Correct.
And also,
So there's one thing that I want to ask you. We have like a lot of social media accounts online. I think we discussed it earlier before the interview. Is it important for us to have separate passwords for each of those accounts, or I can just have the same password? What would any one of you suggest?
I think
something?
it's better to use like different password for each account. Otherwise, when one account gets hacked, so all the accounts are on risk.
Okay.
Then I would like to add on, like, try incorporating different characters inside your passwords, like a lowercase, uppercase, and special characters, because that makes your password a bit more unique, and don't use any of these dictionary passwords that are very easily available on the net. That makes it very easy for the attackers to actually get into your accounts.
Right.
I quite agree with Jaden. We can just go with one password for several platforms,
Okay.
but it has to be a strong password.
Password.
You can also, if you want to be more secure, go for different passwords. But again, the human tendency to remember. So as a human being, what we would want to do is we would write it down somewhere.
Correct.
And what if that falls into the wrong hands?
All right, so before I get to hear your closing comments, I want to ask my last question first to Bhai Alam, then we'll start with Pema for closing comments. Bhai Alam, how can citizens report such crimes in the first place, and what do you do to actually track down these anonymous criminals, I should say?
So, number one is you can always visit the nearest police station, the nearest police outpost, or the nearest bit house and come and report your matter. Second thing is, since it has been launched by the Government of India, we have an online website which is cybercrime.gov.in. Any aggrieved person or a victim can visit this website and report your matter. Then, if you feel that there's no risk or threat at all, you can simply make a call to 1930, which is a national cybercrime reporting helpline number.
Okay.
And this is available 24/7.
Okay, fair enough. So before we end the discussion, I'd like to hear your closing comments, and I want to start with Pema, and then we'll move to Jaden, and then lastly to Bhai Alam.
So, in today's world, awareness is your strongest protection. So, be smart, be cautious, and be updated. Your digital safety depends on your daily activity on social media.
Thank you, Pema. Jaden, let's hear your closing comments.
My closing comments would be, keep updating yourself with the new scams and frauds that are happening. Next, keep your system secure. And lastly, in case of any help, DataYug, we are available, or you can call on to 1930, the national helpline, for any threats or cyber stuff that are happening to you.
Thank you. Last but not least, let's go to Bhai Alam. Let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah. It's alright to be a part of the online social media world. It's absolutely alright to hold a smartphone and to always be connected with the internet. But always follow the ethics. you know that you have to play safe, you have to play smart. From a law enforcement point of view, my humble request to all the viewers here, if at all you are a victim or you fall prey, please do not hesitate in reporting. Always mention it or relate the matter to anyone that you are close with. And when you come and report the matter, be it online or in person to the state police or the law enforcement agencies, do not hide facts. And this, it's from experience that we have come across that many a times the facts are hidden. And that is when we are completely just shooting our darts in the dark. So this is my request to our viewers, that please do not hide facts. Always report the complete matter.
All right, very well put, and thank you, Ba Yalamlang. Now, India is at the crossroads of digital transformation and cyber threats, where it has become both an iron pillar of progress and a magnet for cyber fraudsters. Realizing the vision of Digital India, the government's multi-layered cyber response team is facilitating fraud prevention and disrupting thousands of scam operations. Advanced forensics, big data analytics, and indigenous tools have bolstered national cyber resilience. Yet securing India's cyberspace is a shared responsibility where the government and the citizens must act together in this combat against cyber frauds. Once again, I'd like to thank all my guests this episode, Ba Yalamlang Jirwa, Ba Jaden Dis-Im, and Kongpema Choki Sherlin C. Dorkrud. And I'd like to thank all of you, our viewers, until we meet in our next episode. Thank you.